Honda's about ready to post record profits. Now, this is right on the backs of Toyota posting record profits for Q1 of the fiscal year this year, but they're kind of the standouts. The majority of the automakers around the world are starting to go down. If we look at Nissan is starting to offer severance packages to salaried workers. Stellantis just had an announcement last week offering the same sort of time to leave the company because we can't afford to pay you anymore, or we need to make sure our budgets are focused on longevity instead of paying our people right here, right now. We'll talk about Carlos Ghosn speaking up about Nissan and Honda and Mitsubishi, the new alliance, and how he thinks Honda is just taking them over. Lucid is floundering, but they're getting bailed out once again, and Volkswagen and other European car makers, just like we talked about Stellantis and Nissan, we'll talk about how they are losing billions trying to figure out China, trying to figure out the moving goalposts with governmental regulations on emissions. Guys, grab your snacks and drinks, buckle in. We got a long one ahead of us. If you enjoy industry auto news, smash the like button, subscribe for more. And the auto industry, again, is kind of a reflection of the overall global economy. And so things are getting a little bit shaky right now, and it's starting to manifest in the automaker. So let's get into what Nissan is doing. Offering buyouts for workers at least 52 years old in non-manufacturing business units and those 55 and older in manufacturing organization. Now, in the US, Nissan employs 21,000 people, including 9,000 hourly workers at 3 Southeast factories. And hourly production workers are not affected, so it's not like they're laying off their production workforce. Nissan's market share since 2019 in the United States anyways has dropped from 7.9 to just 5.8. They don't have any hybrids, which are printing money for Honda and Toyota at this point in time. They are still weathering the uncertainty of the economy, the global economies, quite well on their diversified portfolios. Nissan has the Aria and the Leaf, and those are not, game changer EVs by any means, and they're actually costing the company quite a bit of money. Nissan's operating profit collapsed 99% in the 3 months ended June 30th. So that would be the Q1 fiscal year. And this is largely due to the lousy financial performance on the US operation, which saw sales decline 3.1% in April to June. Remember back in February, Nissan had 104 days supply and the industry average was just 76 days. Also, Nissan is spending $3,700 per vehicle on incentives in March, which was the highest among full-line brands. Stellantis is seeing similar problems right now in the company and in the market. Broad voluntary buyout packages to U.S. salaried employees. And these are from the vice president level down are eligible for this buyout. Now, Stellantis is Chrysler, Fiat, Dodge, Jeep, etc. And they employ about 11,000 salaried workers in the U.S. And we don't know how many are being offered this buyout package. And this is in addition to what happened in November. The company made separation packages to 6,400 salaried employees in response to challenging market conditions. And here they are a half a year later offering more buyout packages. Here's a little entertainment piece. So Honda, Nissan, Mitsubishi working together to create software-defined vehicles. And there's no capital tie-up at this point in time. There might be. They're not investing in each other quite yet. They haven't made a standalone company like a joint venture company, for example. But Carlos Ghosn, the former leader of Renault and Mitsubishi and Nissan, is saying that this looks like a Honda takeover. He believes that Honda taking them over is the only way that this can work. Do you think this is a cover-up for Honda just taking over Nissan and Mitsubishi? I mean, Honda's by far the healthiest company out of the three. Honda's reaping record profits. Nissan's profits have just disappeared completely. He says Nissan is trying to find a savior, like they did in 1999 with Renault. Signing an agreement with Honda looks like an initiative of trying to turn attention away from the miserable results. Ghosn said it's going to be a takeover, a disguised takeover. I don't think so. I don't think Honda wants anything to do with Nissan and Mitsubishi's struggling finances. This is all about Honda having a reduced investment in software-defined vehicles and battery technology and motors and that sort of thing. So to me, they're getting invested in by Mitsubishi and Nissan to produce these products at lower cost. Now, it's not as simple as that. I'm sure it's much more complicated, but that's how I see it. Nissan is definitely not in the driver's seat here. Honda is in the driver's seat. Honda's healthy. They are in a higher position here. They're on the higher ground. Carlos Ghosn sees that as well, but he thinks Honda is just going to take over Nissan completely. Now, there will be so many similarities going forward by having swappable batteries, swappable inverters and motors, and having the same software. That is going to happen, but is it going to be pretty much the Honda show going forward? I'm not so sure about that, but I'll see you guys comment on that down below. Speaking of EVs, Lucid gets up to $1.5 billion in funding from the Saudis once again, as they just burned hundreds of millions of dollars this last quarter. Check this out. Lucid is losing over $100,000 per vehicle in the second quarter of 2024. Now, it's less than what it used to be. A year ago, in 2023, they're losing over 200. I'll just say well over $200,000 per vehicle. I don't see longevity in Lucid. The EV market right now it's kind of capped, at least at this point in time, for the luxury end. We need more affordable EVs, and Lucid is not offering more affordable EVs. They want to come out with a luxury 3-row, and that will help them if they survive that long. Look, their deliveries have, I guess, slightly gone up in the last year. You have to have insanely high production volume in order to be profitable. And we're seeing Rivian having slightly better results than Lucid. I just don't see Lucid having a place in the future in the world. Would I like them to? Absolutely. I think they have cool designs. I've heard amazing things. I haven't driven one yet. I've heard amazing things about them. But in today's market, you need to have profitable business, obviously, in any market. And they're just not there. They're just getting injected with cash from investors. So interesting. Volkswagen and other European car makers are weighed down by EVs, China, and research and development. Stellantis saw a 48% drop. We talked about how Nissan was a 99% drop in profit. And Europe's 5 biggest automakers reported falling profits for the first half due to weak demand for electric vehicles, cost competition from China, and ballooning research and development costs. Volkswagen's woes came from their EV business. During the 6 months ended in June, EV sales volume in Europe dropped 15%. Aren't they supposed to be fully electric by like 2030 in some areas? People are not interested, or should I say, maybe the EV saturation has gone about as far as it can in Europe at this point in time with the current EV situation, EV technology, EV infrastructure, whatever it might be, incentives. A lot of these countries have pulled back their incentives for buying EVs, and customers are like, well, if I'm not getting a tax break or blah, 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 they're not going to buy it unless it is superior to a gas car in every single way. And Volkswagen also dropped in EVs 15% in the first half. Their net profit in the first half sank 14% on the year. Isn't it funny that Volkswagen is considering shutting down a plant in Brussels that makes EVs for Audi? Brussels is the home of the EU, and all the legislation that flows out of Brussels dictating a cut in emissions from gasoline or diesel cars all comes out of Brussels. EV mandates all comes out of Brussels. And here's Audi saying, we're going to shut down our EV plant in Brussels. Stellantis volume has fallen 18% in the US. They still want to pull out 20 new models this year, mainly EVs, but their profit has plummeted 48%. Sales in Europe has dropped 6%. BMW, Renault, and Mercedes-Benz are all getting their profits soaked up as well. European automakers have headaches in China. It's not just European, it's American and Japanese. It's anyone who's not a home-cooked Chinese product. They're not getting handouts by the Chinese government. They're getting taxed more in some situations. Germany's BMW and China dropped 4% on the year. Not as bad as I was expecting. If you look at like Honda, Nissan, it's 20-40% in some cases. BMW thinks they will see a recovery in the second half on its mini Aceman EV. Mercedes saw sales sink in China 9% in the first half, and they think current market conditions in China will persist for at least the next 12 to 18 months. We have a rough patch ahead of us for the auto market. That is absolutely sure. All right, so the big takeaway here is the auto market keeps going down throughout the world. Every single market is seeing a downturn. The worldwide economy is going down. How long is anyone's guess, and how much of an effect it will have is anyone's guess. I think the big takeaway is EVs in Europe and in the United States, the growth there is very small at this point in time. They've kind of hit that max threshold, and then every single percentage point of growth from here on out for EV adoption is going to be a grind unless some sort of new battery technology comes out at a super cheap price with fast charging and super high range. Unless some miracle battery or technology comes out in the near future, it's just going to be a grind for the EV market to expand. And that's what all these manufacturers are investing in right now. And they won't see a return on that investment for a long time. So they're going to keep bleeding cash as they are finding a weak market for their EVs and their EV investment. But what does it mean for the consumer? Well, if you've been staying put, it might be a decent time to buy a car in the near future cash, unless you can get a crazy finance deal under 3% or something like that. There's very few of that out there because the Fed isn't cutting rates. So interest rates are very, very high. But if you can pay cash for a car or get a low interest rate, you're going to see massive discounts on cars as we go through the second half of this year. Certain brands more than others. Pickup trucks getting huge discounts. EVs getting enormous discounts, but do not buy them. Only lease EVs, in my opinion. You'll still be able to get really good lease deals on EVs. So deals are to be had right now, but if you are patient and can wait for new cars or for your next new car, I think deals will only get better as a year moves on. Time will tell though. Automakers, there might be, it depends how bad this downturn is and how long it lasts, but there might not be some automakers that survive this. It will be interesting. I think, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it doesn't look good. And I hope it's short-lived, but I got to end there. I can't wait to see you guys sound it off down below. I don't feel bad for these mega companies. They're definitely not immune from the economy and the market. And a lot of them are not listening to customers. They're only listening to what the governments are telling them to do with their product stacks and their research and development. So anyways, I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys for watching. Take care and peace.